to our online learning channel. Today we are looking at a lesson in our term 2, weeks 1 to 2, punctuation. And on punctuation we are focusing on quotation marks and spelling patterns. This is our lesson for today. Our objectives for this lesson: by the end of the lesson, we should be able to explain the functions of quotation marks and give practical examples. We need also to be able to identify methods of spelling. Spellings usually give us a lot of problems, but if we employ these methods, they are going to assist us. We are going to also be able to use spelling rules for certain types of words that are commonly misspelled. Those will be our objectives for this lesson. Right, let's begin by looking at quotation marks. What are quotation marks? Quotation marks are also known as inverted commas. The inverted commas, as you can see on the screen there in brackets, those are what we refer to as inverted commas or quotation marks. What are the functions of quotation marks? Number one is to indicate direct speech. For example, you can see there on the screen, the president said, "Stay at home." The quotation marks have been used there to show the direct speech, these direct words which were said by our president. Then quotation marks also are used to repeat someone's words, what we refer to as quoting someone verbatim. For example, my mother said, "I am sick and tired." Those are her direct words. That's what she said directly. So when you repeat your words, you are going to put them in quotation marks. The quotation marks also will indicate titles of books and films. For example, they read the play Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is the title of the play, and it has been placed in quotation marks. Number 4, to excuse the use of slang or a different language. For example, always practice Ubuntu. Ubuntu is not an English word, therefore we put it in quotation marks. Number 5, quotation marks indicate metaphoric use of a word or a phrase. For example, he is a black sheep of the family. Black sheep is in quotation marks to indicate the metaphoric use of that phrase. He is not literally a black sheep, but in a metaphor, he is a black sheep, or he is that kind of a person who is different in an unacceptable manner in the family. That is the use of quotation marks. We are going to move over then to our spelling patterns. As I indicated before, spellings are a challenge to most of us, most probably because we do not know how to work around spelling and mastering spelling skills. Right, spelling patterns. What are spelling patterns? There are configurations in which a number of words with the same sound that are spelled in a particular way, but there is no logical reason why they should be spelled that way. You look at the word, but you find no logical reason why it's spelled that way. Then there should be a pattern to follow. Right, the first pattern has to do with consonants and short vowels. Consonants and short vowels. For example, the word robber. It has consonants, the consonant R and our vowel sound E, which is a short vowel sound, robber. And we have another example, sitting. We have the consonant sound S and the short vowel sound I. Sit, sitting. Right. We move on to another spelling pattern, which has to do with consonant blends and digraphs. Those will be your BL sound, BR, CH, and SH. That is the pattern there. Then we have our long vowel or the final E. Long vowel or the final E. Example there is in dream, easy. Those are your long vowels and your final E. Number 4 pattern, we have other vowel patterns which could not be long or short. For example, we have cage, back. Those will be words which fall under that category. Number 5, we have syllable patterns. Syllable patterns like tiger. The word tiger has been split into syllables. First syllable tie, second syllable ga, tiger. Or you can also learn to spell by looking at these patterns. Look at baby, has been split into 2 syllables, be and b, baby. Syllable patterns. And then we also have affixes. Remember, your prefixes, your suffixes will fall under these affixes. For example, we have ex-president, disengage. You see X is your prefix, and president being the stem of the word, and then dis being your prefix, and engage being the root word. Those are basically spelling patterns, but we are going to look further into methods of spelling, learning to spell, methods of learning to spell. The first method is what we refer to as syllabification. Syllabification. The root word is a syllable, remember. So what is syllabification? It is the sounding out and dividing of words into syllables to allow easy reading and spelling. Sounding out and dividing words into syllables so that you can read easily and as well spell easily. I want to believe that is the easiest way of learning how to spell, breaking the words into syllables. Number 1, every syllable contains a short or a long vowel sound. E.g., measurement. The word is measurement, but when you break it into syllables, it will be 3 syllables, measure and ment. 3 vowel sounds, 3 syllables. When you break the word that way, you sound it, it will be easy to spell it out. Right, number 2, when you work with syllabification, check that where there are double consonants, we separate them. And they are referred to as the terrible twins sometimes. Where there are double consonants, we need to separate them as we divide our syllables. For example, syllabus is the word. We can see there is a double consonant of the letter L. Letter L, double syllable. So we will separate those. SYL, we put a, we separate the syllables SYL, and then the other LA comes in another syllable. So remember to separate the double consonants. And then where we have running, look at running. Run, and ning. The double consonants there, N, we separate those. Accompany, we see the double syllable of the letters M from come and pa there. So make sure you separate the double consonants as you break down the syllables. Where possible, always begin a new syllable with a consonant. Where possible, always you have to begin a new syllable with a consonant. Playing. Examinations. Note there, all the syllables there begin with consonants. For playing, the next syllable begins with the consonant Y. In examination, first syllable begins with our vowel, of course, but then the second one begins with a consonant M, and the last one also begins with a consonant T. That is the first method which we are looking at for learning to spell using syllabification as a method. Our next method is the VAKT. VAKT, which stands for visual, auditory, kinetic, and tactile. I'm going to explain further what that means. Visual, auditory, kinetic, and tactile. It's a method which we can use to learn how to spell. Note there, this method is highly effective when dealing with words which do not follow usual spelling rules or patterns and cannot be sounded out logically. Think of words like, for example, as I've indicated there, iron. No spelling rule specific, and the way the word is sounded, maybe when you look at it, you wonder how it came to be. Cough, draft. Such words you will easily learn through using the visual, auditory, kinetic, tactile method. Right, the V, which stands for visual, simply means you see the word, visualize the word. And half the time we learn to spell mostly if we are well read. If we read widely, we learn a lot of spellings, a lot of new words. So visual is important. See the word, and maybe you will have a picture in your mind of that word. Then our A, which is auditory, that is hear the word. Hear the word by sounding it loud. Read loudly the word. Sound it. And as you hear the word, then it registers in your mind as well. And you link it with what you saw and what you now hear. Think of the word syllabification. When you voice it out and you have already seen it, you can start writing it. Then kinetic. The kinetic experience, I think some of us are already thinking science. Kinetic energy. Right, kinetic. Right, means write it out. There is movement of your hands, writing out the word. So don't only look at it, don't only voice it out, but also practice writing out the word. Then the final part, which is the tactile, the feel or the touch. Sometimes when necessary, you may have your stencil, you trace out the word, or maybe on some material where you can write it and you can feel it, right? And most probably it will work maybe for those people who use their braille, right? But not, that is another method which works well when we work with learning how to spell, the VAKT method, VAKT. Right, we move over to our next method. Look, say, cover, write, check. Look, say, cover, write, check. Very practical method, very important also. Look at the word and notice the configuration. Its shape, the shape of letters, you name it. Look at the word. You can see that the methods are very much related. The first one, this one, and the previous method. There is a lot of a link between amongst those. So you look at the word, and that is why I am still emphasizing the idea of reading. When you are well read, then you have no problem with spelling. Read widely. Read novels, read magazines, you name it. Look at the word and notice the configuration, its shape, letters, etc. And then say, voice out the word. I have already mentioned that. So it's important that you voice out the word, you pronounce it correctly, and as you do so, you learn how to spell. Cover the word and try to picture it in your mind. So without you looking at the word now, you cover it and you picture it in your mind. Once you have pictured it in your mind, write it as you sound it. As you sound the word, write it down. Like I said, some of the words really need us to focus, concentrate. Syllabification. Voice the word, write it out. And by so doing, you are being practical. Then number 5, then check your spelling against the original word. Once you have written it, you go to the spelling check. Have I done it correctly? That way, then you learn where you have made a mistake, you quickly correct that mistake. That is our method, look, say, cover, write, and check. Then we move to our spelling rules. Spelling rules. There are many spelling rules in English, but we cannot always depend on them because there are many exceptions. The focus should be on rules for certain types of words that are usually misspelled. So we are just going to look at some of those rules which help us deal with words which we usually misspell. Right, looking at number 1. Spelling rule number 1, which we are going to focus on, using I before E. Using I before E. I is used before E in words such as believe, thief, chief. I think we can list some more words. Spelling rule, I comes before E. We have exceptions, of course, That is except after C when the sound is an E, the long E sound. For example, receive. Note now, I comes after E. That's an exception. There is a C there, and then the sound is a long E. So receive. In this case, then, E comes before I. Right. And then, of course, ancient will fall under the other side there. Then we have exceptions, of course, such words as neighbor. Right. Neighbor also, you will see that your E will come before your I. Not spelling rule, I comes before E. But check your exceptions. Check the exceptions. Right, number 2, dropping the final E. Dropping the final E, that is the letter E. The final E can be dropped if the suffix begins with a vowel. We know our vowels there. I've put them in brackets for you there. You can see them. But not before the suffix beginning with a consonant. So the final E will only drop if our suffix begins with a vowel. But if it's beginning with a consonant, no, it will not drop. Right, let's look at examples there. We have ride, the word ride. When the suffix begins with a vowel, then we will drop the E. Then our word will read riding, as you can see there. Hope also, the final E will drop, and it is because our suffix, begins with ing, which is a vowel sound. So the word will be hopping. Where the suffix begins with a consonant, then we will keep our E. For example, like, and the suffix begins with a consonant N. Therefore, the word likeness without dropping the E. And then we have arrange. Consonant beginning with the suffix beginning with M, which is a consonant. Then we do not drop our E. Those are some of the spelling rules there. Let's move on to the next. Changing a final Y to I. Y to be changed to I. It happens when the final Y, when it comes before a suffix, unless the suffix begins with I. Unless the suffix begins with I, then our Y there will change. Right? For example, defy. Right? Defy. Then we will change that one to defiance, because our suffix begins with A. And party, the Y will fall off because our suffix begins with E. Then it will be parties. Right? When the suffix begins with begins with I, then we are not going to drop our Y. Like in trying, occupying. Those are our examples there. Right? Doubling a final consonant is our other method. Doubling a final consonant. Right, we double a final single consonant before the suffix beginning with a vowel when both these conditions exist. When these two conditions exist, a single vowel precedes the consonant. A consonant ends an accented syllable or a one-syllable word. For example, stop. And we see there we have the consonant and the vowel coming together, then we will have our word stopping. We have doubled our consonant P. Okay, we will double our consonant R. But then not, those are some of the examples we have there. Then we will move on to the next rule, silent letters. Silent letter A in words like bread, tick. Silent letter B in comb, bomb. Silent letter C in science, sin. Silent letter D in wedge, bridge. Silent letter H in honor and honest. Silent letter K in no, night. Silent letter L in walk and some. Silent letter N in column and autumn. Silent letter P in psychology and some. Silent letter S in isle and island. Silent letter T in listen and whistle. Silent letter U in guess and guitar. And silent letters W in ride and wrist. Those are some of the spelling rules that we need to stick by, because they usually assist us deal with those complicated words whereby we do not understand where or how maybe the rule has changed. But if you stick to these, then you will know when you drop your Y, when you double your consonants, and you will know if your letters are silent and you need to add them still. Right, we are going to look at a simple activity there. Number 1, identify and explain 3 functions of quotation marks. Number 2, what is syllabification? Number 3, give an example of dropping the final E. You can quickly think over those, or you can write down your answer if you have it. Right, I will go to the solution with you. Right, quotation marks are used when we indicate direct speech, when we indicate titles of books or films, when we excuse ourselves for using slang or a different language. Right, our number 2, sounding out and dividing of words into syllables to allow easy reading and spelling is what we refer to as syllabification. And our last question, we will take the word guide, and the letter E will fall off because the prefix or the suffix, sorry, begins with a consonant, begins with a vowel actually, and therefore our E will fall and we have guidance. That was our lesson for today on quotation marks and spelling patterns to assist us to work on our spelling and our punctuation mark quotation marks. Good day to all.